planning ahead and working out what it's going to cost you is probably the decision that people don't spend enough time on. Often this is a cultural or personal decision that's, I want my boy to go to the school I went to private school, I go to private school, and so it is a challenge, and it does make sense to try and spread it out over as long as time as possible. So I would definitely start looking at setting aside some money, which we'll talk a bit about investing for kids later. But yeah, it's a decision, and an expensive decision, and one that's quite hard to make in advance. And we started at Newington, which is obviously one of Sydney's big sporting schools, probably more renowned for its sporting prowess on particularly the rugby field, and its contribution to the Wallabies than it is for its academic skills. And he just did not fit in at all. And we struggled for quite a while. We then ended up getting a consultant to help us pick the second school, and it was a school called John Collette at Belrose. So anyone who lives on the North Shore of Sydney should check this out. When the consultant told me about it, I went, that's just bizarre. They provide a vegetarian lunch for the kids. You're not allowed to bring meat or fish to school. They learn Sanskrit, the chants. They sit on traditional desks. They shake hands with the teacher. And John Bell, the Shakespeare guy, runs their Shakespeare program because his kids went there. And so they did 2 Shakespeare plays a year in primary school. So it's such a great training. But I would never have thought of that before we were put onto it. And I was very skeptical when I went for the tour. But it did in the world of good. So matching your kid to the school is probably more important than which level of expense you contribute towards it.
So true, yeah.
But if you are going to do it, yes, spread it over as many years as possible.
That's a good point.
Matt wants to know where we got the consultant. It's too long ago for me to remember, but I'm pretty sure our OT made the recommendation. I can probably find out for you, but this is 17 years ago, so you'll have to forgive my memory. But I think it was our occupational therapist who put us onto it. And it wasn't very expensive, but it got as a result that there was no way that I could have made, or we could have made on our own. Yeah, the old days of there's one right answer for all schools are just gone. They're so different. He finished his schooling at St Andrews in the city, which was really good. And they had a really good after-school program where they did their homework in the library and supervised, and then they gave them dinner. So you could pick him up after dinner. We had dinner with his mates and came home with his homework done in a really great state of mind. So thoroughly recommend that one. Not everyone can get there. The other big question, obviously, is co-ed or not co-ed. It's really hard to find co-ed schools for boys. And I thoroughly recommend that anyone reads Steve Biddulph's book, and Carr Gregg, what's his name? I can't remember his first name. His surname is Carr Gregg. That's Carr-Gregg. And he's written a whole bunch. This is probably more for older kids, so you probably don't want to be reading this till they're getting close to teenage. But he's got a couple of great books. Thoroughly recommend it.
I'm curious to hear from everyone. Did you go public, private? What was your experience? Would you have preferred to be one way or the other? I know for myself, I went to a public school. I found it was great. People were very smart. It was a selective school though, so people were very smart. I felt very dumb there. I was like, I felt like I'm an imposter here. I don't know how I got into this school. But yeah.
That's a New South Wales thing though, isn't it? Selective high schools.
I think they must have them in Victoria too, maybe other parts. But that was interesting. Part of me I agree with you, Vince. I think you got to match the kid to the school, because sometimes if you feel a bit like out of place and like you don't belong there, that's big impact. But yeah, curious to hear from people what their experiences were.